for joining another brand new webinar from NextView and Salesforce. We're going to talk today about, I must say, one of the hottest things in Salesforce right now, B2B commerce. And I'm excited to have a great lineup of speakers today. We have Mark Schmidt joining us live from Belgium. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. Hello.
Morning. Mark is a digital transformation and innovation lead at Salesforce and is going to provide us with some valuable insights. On my left, I have Martijn de Glopper, Senior Account Executive B2B Commerce at Salesforce. Good morning, Martijn. Welcome.
Morning.
And last but not least, we have Sander van Loon, B2B Commerce Lead at NextView.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lars Klumpis. I'm a sales director at NextView, and we have a great program for you today. If you're a regular to our program, or our webinars rather, you know that we like to make these as interactive as possible. So if you look at your screen on the right side, there should be a box where you can post your questions. Your questions end up here on my iPad, and I'll relay them to the right panelists. So feel free to pick the brains of our panelists and really make this an interactive session. Let me start with Mark. Mark is a transformation and innovation specialist at Salesforce. What do you see happening in the B2B commerce market today?
Yeah, thanks, Lars, and thank you, NextView, for the opportunity to be here today, even if it has to be virtually for me. Yeah, so what we're seeing in the space is a lot of B2B companies actually slowed down a lot of investments, obviously, when COVID hit and the lockdown started and their businesses were heavily impacted. However, some areas actually saw increased investment. And B2B commerce certainly was one of those. But before I get there, I'd like to just talk about some of the other areas that we saw. So the first was around this integrated ecosystem collaboration. So first, of course, foremost is getting employees connected so they could sell to and communicate with customers and communicate with each other, that employees were having this cross-functional collaboration. Then the focus became more around these higher value customer experiences. So one of those was virtual servicing, doing field service remotely when engineers couldn't get on site. And the other very much is in this digital B2B space. And the other area we're seeing now really come up a lot is around more data-driven business, leveraging analytics to make sure that it's more fact-based of what's going on, or try to become more predictive in this time of so much uncertainty. And the other areas around commercial excellence, which ties back, of course, could leverage B2B commerce. And if we come back to this space, digital B2B commerce, what we're seeing in this is not just that businesses that had already had some element of B2B commerce just increased investment. In fact, what we saw is businesses, very non-traditional, conservative businesses, investing in B2B commerce. So companies in areas like mining or industrial services, raw materials, high-end engineering products, those that didn't have a real initiative in this space have come to us, and we've been able to deploy very, very quickly. But maybe before I go on, I'd like to ask a question back to NextView, maybe to Sander there in the room. What you've seen from NextView in terms of businesses investing in B2B commerce.
Yeah, similar, like you say, we see in non-traditional product types like professional services, where companies are actually transforming their services in more productized services and be offered through a commerce site. Also, finding their way in to provide more digital selling towards their customers. Yeah, so definitely, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, thanks, Sandra. Yeah, it is indeed interesting. And I think, there's a few words that are important on this chart, which is self-service. So on the next slide, what we'll see is that really the conversation around B2B commerce is much more than a conversation just around the commerce piece. So a lot of people, if you're in a B2B business, you're thinking about commerce today, you might imagine it's, Amazon, but this is much more than about just merchandising, right? In B2B commerce, we know the sales cycles are more complex. So you see here where, at the bottom of the screen, where maybe a company goes from, finding customers to winning business to keeping business. And there's some important questions that are there posed at the bottom of the screen. But I'm going to focus here on the importance of B2B self-service overall. And there's really 4 different main use cases that happen in B2B. So there's researching for products, there's evaluation of those products and making the selection. then the actual ordering, and also very importantly, reordering, which is very common in B2B. And we see from this study from McKinsey, an increase that has happened here across these 4 different use cases, very significant increase. And B2B commerce, it's not just about that ordering phase. It's about the ability for people to go and find a product, to research, to evaluate, of course, to order, and also then reorder. But we also know that, these different scenarios I posed here of, finding, winning, keeping, it's more complex than this. So actually on the next slide, what we'll look at is the area that is a B2B type of business, in the area I'm mainly focused on in the manufacturing space. And in manufacturing, and I know you've used this chart before in other next few webinars, we see there's of course a much more complex cycle that happens in the life cycle of business. So B2B businesses, when they're interacting, it's not a one and done purchase, right? It may flow from things like marketing and B2B marketing, digital marketing, into the connected sales piece. And of course, once that sale is done, hopefully then into an ongoing agreement that needs to be managed. And then very often the commerce and online experience is then in play. And again, sometimes this can happen earlier, but very often it's after a relationship has been established. And then of course, there's the ongoing service. But even though we have in the lower corner here, this digital commerce and online experience, in fact, there's many different areas that can be driven and enhanced through self-service. And that's what we have here on this next chart. On the next slide, we see that what I've highlighted here are all the different areas on this kind of manufacturing or B2B business flow that can be enhanced by commerce and self-service. So that starts up in the marketing space, B2B marketing, having a landing point, having a destination point for any sort of digital marketing. It's great to point them to a commerce site where either they can find product information or maybe even place an order if that is what they need to do. But you want to give them an action that can happen after that marketing. And then into the sales piece, the customer 360 that Salesforce is so useful to help companies adopt. It's great if you can allow your businesses to make changes about their own account information themselves. It saves a lot of administration work. And then of course, there's prototypes or sample requests that companies may want to request. That can be driven through a commerce front-end platform. Maybe it's a zero-cost order, but the same process is used to process the order and ship it. And then you have online configurations or maybe quote requests that can be done in an online self-service manner. And then even after the deal is done, customers may want to manage or view their existing sales agreement, existing contracts. They might want to request the delivery at a specific time. So that's where delivery on call could be very useful. And then of course you have the commerce and online experience itself. And as I mentioned before, reordering is a big part of B2B commerce. And that's where we see a lot of companies start, is by implementing reorders, because sometimes it's very complex to configure a new order for some industries. But reorders, which is extremely common, especially manufacturing, but many B2B businesses, that's an order that's already been done. So it's quite simple then to implement at a facility for someone to go in and place a reorder. Maybe they could change the ship to address or other details, but you don't have to go through any sort of complex configuration for what's actually being requested. And then we see the other common pieces of what B2B commerce can help.
Yeah. So Mark, that reordering, is that what you would say you see typically as a first step in a B2B commerce strategy?
Absolutely. That can be a first step. It can be a very quick ROI for a lot of, will be a key topic here in the rest of the conversation today. So that's one of the areas. And the other key ones are also listed there on the bottom. So, common requests, documents and certification, especially for chemical industry, for example, or invoice requests that take a lot of time for the service department. A lot of that can be funneled through a portal that could be powered and also enable B2B commerce.
Yeah, very impressive. Yeah, so if I look at the picture, the slide that you're showing, I think there's a lot more to B2B commerce than just having an online storefront, and I think that's an important realization.
Mainly also because B2B is much more complex than B2C. It's not just a website where you can order some product. You have to work with contract pricing. More configurable projects, so it is more complex. But due to that complexity, there are much more touch points to be reached to gain benefit from.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, it's very impressive. Let's see if we have any questions from our audience, and we actually do. Thanks for that. So looking at the slide, does Salesforce offer solutions at every single point in this process that you're showing? I'll direct it to you, Mark.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Lars. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, certainly the name Salesforce and the origin of the company, right? People assume that maybe we're still just handling, Salesforce automation, and of course, it's grown much beyond that. So all the different areas here are places where Salesforce or our partners have on our platform have solutions that are running at different businesses. And as Sander said, right, indeed the B2B commerce is more complex than B2C. It means people typically place much larger orders that maybe are being shipped to different addresses with very specific dates, right? In B2C, typically the most common request is I want something as soon as possible. In B2B, what matters is getting that on a particular specific date, of course, right? To help with any sort of just-in-time value chain that might be in place, a supply chain for that business. So, a lot of different elements that are there for B2B. You see them mentioned here, and indeed, Salesforce. This is really our passion, and we have solutions going here from all the way from marketing to service.
Yeah, very good. We have one more question from the audience, and I'll redirect that to you, actually, because I know you're going to talk about it, so maybe we'll get back to it later. But do you have any information on the return on investment on a B2B commerce initiative?
Yes, we do. And actually, we conducted a study together with Forrester about, to find out what the actual impact is. And also what Mark mentioned, there is a recent study finished last month by McKinsey. So yes, we have a lot of insights currently.
Super. Okay, so we'll not jump the gun. We'll get back to that later. So I hope that's okay for our viewers.
Yes.
So once again, if you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to shoot the question. I'll get them here on my iPad, and I'd be more than happy to relay them to the right panelists. So moving on, I'd like to have a chat to you, Sander. The word ROI has already been dropped. But more than ROI, there's also value drivers. And I think it's important. We see a lot of clients that are sort of currently contemplating whether they want to do something about launching a B2B commerce strategy or channel. What are the typical value drivers that you see?
Yeah. So in preparation to this webinar, we did some research, and like Mark said, Brady, what you saw in the yellow dots, there are a lot for B2B companies, a lot of opportunities. Also where to use an e-commerce kind of solution for your business area to accelerate business. But if you then look at what is happening in the market, and also that's why we use that Gartner report you can download, is that B2B is really, or the B2B market is really lagging behind for the B2C market. So we see we see more sites coming, but you remember the research we did recently along some company sites, and indeed, besides the fact that a lot of companies don't have an e-commerce functionality on their website, what was astonishing for me is that the ones that had it, were really for simple products, not offering the entire product catalog. Once you want to have a quotation, where you are redirected to a page where a guy's phone number was on it, and a text message where you can say, okay, please enter your quotation here. And another thing is that it was not reflecting what the company actually is doing on their website, the brand story. So those things we saw. And then when talking to those types of customers, feedback we got is, it's not... we don't do that because it's not for my type of business. My customers don't want it. My products are too complex. So B2B is not for me. Or we do have it, but we stopped investing in it because we were not getting the payoff that we wanted from our site. And another one is we're saying, okay, we don't know where to start. We know it's happening in the market. We see our competitors doing it, but we actually don't have an idea where to start for ourselves. And for those companies, you say, okay, you have to start by drawing up your commerce strategy. Because you're really missing out on opportunity. It's a big opportunity. You can also see that what the market is going to for B2B commerce. It's really a huge market, and you can assume that if you're not doing it, your competitor is doing it.
Yes.
So what we do advise companies, if you want to make that start and don't know where to start or how to proceed in it, start with a commercial strategy. Commercial strategy where you draw up, okay, what do I expect what my e-commerce will contribute to, and how it will have to contribute. And if you see what we have done, so if we this is a value driver model we use. So you see 3 main areas where B2B commerce or where commerce can contribute value to commerce. It's actually in growing revenue, it's in reducing cost, and it's in providing actually a digital experience to customers. So and what we did in NextView is, as you can see in the slide, so it's there pretty much simplified, but for each of those strategic objectives, we created a library of all kind of value drivers. So what are the typical elements you can use in commerce, in an online commerce strategy, to elaborate and to leverage your strategic objective. And again, this is just a small set of it, but that's also our main takeaway. If you start with this, really look at the value drivers that are important for your company. And not only the big, I want to grow revenue. Yeah, of course, everyone wants to grow revenue. Everyone wants to reduce cost. But really pinpoint those areas that are actually contribute to your business objectives. Yeah. And don't select all of them because it's not realistic. But take a subset out of it that either contribute very much to your business objectives. For example, upselling or being the best in the market on a digital for more customer experience, or pick the ones that are very low hanging and easy to implement. Yeah. And like Mark said, the reordering is very much it's very easy to implement, but has great benefits. Yeah. So and if you then look at the value drivers, what we then did is then you know where to focus on. But what we then did as NextView is we for each value drivers we worked out what the Salesforce capabilities in B2B commerce are you need. So if you then have your subset of value drivers, then you have to know, of course, okay, what do I then need to implement? Because you have to make an internal business case to define your ROI, which Martijn is later on going to elaborate on it. Then you have all those elements, and based on those Salesforce of capability, I have to say. So based on what Salesforce capabilities you need, you can then have a talk with Martijn to say, okay, what is the investment I need? What is the ROI I'm going to I can achieve? So based on that value driver model, what we have here, we actually use it. It's a very simple model where we put in your business objectives.
Yeah, it sounds like a great start to any B2B commerce project.
It's really a start to make it tangible. So again, if you look at those three reactions people gave, not for my business, I don't know where to start, it's not paying off. People say, okay, we don't have a business case. We find it difficult to have a business case. The pressure is enormously on reducing cost. If no one goes to your website.
Sometimes it's also about, and I will elaborate later in my part as well, is, to secure their business, and even secure their business, and also that something we found from the McKinsey study recently is that the importance of digital aided channels, so to say, is really growing. And that's listed out here as well.
So do you recognize the value drivers that we are showing here? Is that something, because you talk to customers on a daily basis?
For some customers, the cross and upsell is not relevant because their customers won't buy 100 tons of steel extra just because it's a lower price. They do need to have the need for that. But another case, if they have better information, so they can decide more quickly, or they can do a bulk order in the beginning of the year and then they have it shipped out in several sub-deliveries. That could be very beneficial and very cost-effective for both them and their customers as well. So on that side, you see a lot of insights. And the learnings we see from going digital, so to say, is that some offline methods are being changed. And you don't sometimes, and this is typically your area of consulting, don't try to do your current business model in a digital way. Just look at it, what's needed, and maybe it can also be a hybrid, can be a combination of offline, online. Yeah. But the days that the salespeople of our customers are going to visit their customers are now long away, I think. So that's
it definitely needs to be, especially in the B2B, where you need to have both channels. You have that analog sales channel,
correct,
and you have to have, let the studies show, you have to have a digital experience. Yeah. And it's very important, like Martijn said, is not just focus on one of them, because your B2B customers are not your typical consumers. They want, for a large complex product, if you want to order that, they want to have a sales rep be able to answer questions. Mm-hmm. And all kinds of channels. So for B2B, it's typically a multiple channel approach that we really highly recommend, and not just replacing one channel.
Yeah, very good. Mark, quick one for you. If you look at these strategic objectives, are you seeing that that's the same for starting transformations, etc., at clients that you talk to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, there's one point on Sander's chart, the previous chart, which mentioned around, the change in the buyers. So the buyers changing to be more millennial. So this expectation that we've talked about, right? That's driving a lot of this. Indeed, if we look at these, cost is often the place it started. Certainly that's been, again, with the expense reductions people have looked at this year. That's where a lot of conversations have started, is how do we start reducing costs? However, over the months now this year, it's changed into this, changing the experience, also scaling the experience. So, we want to invest in this, we want to scale, and that gets to the revenue growth piece around new accounts, new geographies. One interesting thing that's happened in the COVID times, with so many supply chains disrupted and with demand spiking, falling, and changing so rapidly, we've seen businesses move into adjacent territories, selling into accounts or countries that they didn't used to serve, because maybe there were competitors in place, or there were established relationships that are there. But in these uncertain times, that's really changed because of the supply chain changes. That's changed where a lot of companies are looking to source a lot of their goods, and they're looking into other places. And if they can find it online and transact online, again, that creates a new customer for a business that maybe didn't have that before. So we've seen businesses, for example, that sell different equipment, maybe traditionally into the energy sector. And that's been their main space. But in fact, they have some of the equipment could be tailored or even just quickly reused into maybe a different industry to use that's not in the energy space. So indeed, we've seen a lot of this, that it's moved from initial thought was, okay, how do I reduce costs? Because I need to just do my order management without so much manual intervention, without spreadsheets. And that's the first point. But now it's really transitioned to this more discussion of course, change the experience to match the expectations and new markets.
Yeah. Very good. Now, one thing before we move on to you, Sander, again, we've spoken a lot about research. So you have some interesting studies. Yes. Next year we use Gartner to educate ourselves, so you would see the trends, what's going on. And if you haven't downloaded the B2B commerce paper that we host on our website yet, please do so. It's been very interesting. It's been part of the study that we've done to create this webinar. So if you go to our website, you can just download it there for free, and it's a very interesting read. So I'd recommend everybody to do that. Sorry, back to you, Sander.
No problem. No. So again, like Mark said, so we were seeing shifting from cost reductions towards other elements that are really important. And you can see here, And also knowing NextView, we very much value customer experience. So working with NextView is also focusing on customer experience. We think that's a very important part. And I think that's also a very important pillar of those 3 areas where you can improve. Because if you want to use B2B commerce as mainly a cost reduction tool, and you're going to implement it, and no one's going to visit your site because B2B buyers really hate it or don't want to work that way, we will never going to reach that cost reduction. Sure. Same goes for revenue growth. If you want to up and cross-sell more product, you want to provide shopping baskets, but people don't know how to use it or don't want to use it, that revenue growth is never going to happen. So that's why we think it's very important also for that in those value elements to define, okay, who do I want to be in that space for my B2B buyers? Because, and what you see here in the pyramid, I don't know, it's just for an example, and it's B2B buyer value element pyramid of Bain Consulting. I like very much as an example, where you see all the physical and emotional elements B2B buyers value in interacting with your company. So when you dive into that B2B commerce for a more customer experience, really identify, okay, what are the actual experience elements I want to be famous for? Do I want to be famous for low hassle, or do I want to be famous for providing more information? Do I want to provide confidence to my B2B buyers? And combine that with your cost reduction and revenue growth, value drivers and capabilities. And also, we have translated those value elements for B2B buyers and also Salesforce capabilities. What do you then need? How does your storefront need to look like? What kind of functionalities do you need in it to become, to reduce that hassle for that B2B buyer? So that's a very important takeaway we see to actually start with a good B2B commerce channel.
And this should be, from my experience, this should be offered throughout the whole transformation actually of going digital. Because if you do successfully implement a B2B commerce platform, then it's the case that you have embedded it in your organization, that your salespeople start using it, your customers start using it, and it seems like an open door, but it's not that easy. So it's like really taking them by the hand and have plans for that. So this is a multi-level approach of making change possible within your organization. I think it's very valuable.
Yeah, that's a good point. So that's why we really, like I said, we really said to these customers, we talked to, okay, start with that strategy to identify which are those areas you want to be good in and you want to be recognized in, and what are those value drivers, because otherwise there's so much possible and there's so much capabilities, and you have to make it tangible, you have to make it measurable, and to start actually being successfully in commerce, and that can be. So just also for me to round up, also is an example I gave. I want to show you in we made is where we actually you can see how we worked out that value driver module in a more practical case. So it isn't a lot of work. It's not a strategy that will take months, for example. So this is something we created in 1 week for a customer, where we actually say, okay, what's important for you? The value drivers, the Salesforce capabilities, and the KPIs you can expect to be measured. Yeah. And that so really
just one second, because I think we get a very relevant question in from our audience, where they say time to market is critical within e-commerce projects. What can be expected from a Salesforce B2B solution when it comes to realization and implementation of a decided e-commerce strategy? Because I think that's very much in line with what you're showing here.
Yeah. So what you saw in the slide Mark showed from a customer that actually, I thought Mark told it. They were live in 5 weeks. We have a quick start model that you can be live in 2 weeks. So it's really about identifying which values you want to achieve, and of course, in some cases. If you really have high ambitions and to want to really make it a big change, a big platform, of course it will take longer. But we have cases and there are situations where you can do that in 2 weeks, have a first MVP ready, just start learning, start doing, and based on that, build on the capabilities, find new value drivers and elaborate on that.
Yeah. But that sounds great. I mean, up and running in 2 weeks is even if it's just an MVP, it's great, right? And I think it goes for every implementation. Think big, but start small, right? And if you can be up and running in just 2 weeks, that's a great
and especially
achievement.
if you're not accustomed to this, is it new for you? Yeah, where to start? The companies say we don't know where to start and how to start. Yeah, an MVP can be a very great start, and especially the V part of MVP that it's actually viable. So it will actually provide you with a running shop that you can do, for example, your reordering, or just to give you a first step, but align it with your business objectives. Otherwise, you won't get the funding, you won't get the business case, but reordering can be defined to value drivers, to business objectives.
Yeah. We have another question coming in. How do I convince my organization to not only focus on short-term revenue growth and cost reduction as a measurement of success?
Yeah, so that's what I was telling before. So a lot of companies we see are really focusing on the big blocks. So the strategy is grow revenue, implement an e-commerce site. So by actually breaking it down into smaller elements, actually in smaller value, but from growing revenue to, we want to upsell, use e-commerce to upsell more in, for example, like Mark said, new regions or new countries. That's you can make that tangible. You can put a KPI on that, say, we want to increase that growth with 4%. And then have the Salesforce capabilities implemented. Talking to Martijn, about the investment, the cost, etc. Then you will get your business case. And you can make it very concrete and tangible what it should offer in a very small perspective and how it can contribute to that revenue growth.
Yeah. Very good.
Maybe if I could.
Yeah, sure.
If it's okay if I jump in real quick on that question. So, I mean, as well, we get sometimes that question, right, around, maybe concerns around something being purely cost-cutting focused because, there's an assumption that putting in commerce means, then we don't need so many people in our sales teams or service teams. In fact, what we see is a lot of companies, what they focus on for B2B commerce is, growing the long tail, serving those, small companies, small orders or areas that are new that they don't have a sales or service focus on today. And while it can reduce the overall manual effort, that's one of the main goals of B2B commerce because, reduce order errors that happen either on the customer side or internally, right, when it's more self-service and more formula-driven. At the same time, what that means is usually then the sales teams have more time to focus on the key accounts and the large accounts or new territories that indeed do take more effort to start up. So we see a lot of very excellent businesses, some that are top in their industries, take this dual approach. It's cost reduction on one side, right, for the places where errors can be reduced, the manual effort can be reduced, and repurpose that manual work into the growth side of the business and really leverage that customer 360 to have more intimate conversations with the customer and have more in-depth conversations with the customer. So it's not, indeed, to the question that came in, it certainly shouldn't be an either or, right? It's not just cost reduction. It's not just, on the growth side. The cost reduction can be there to power the funding and the time that's needed to help drive the growth.
Yeah, it's more of a holistic approach, really. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Very good. I'd like to move on to you, Martijn. We already had a couple of questions on the economic impact, return on investment, etc. And I believe you have some slides for us prepared there.
Yes, we do. Yes, I do. So talking about the economic impact, before we do so, I would like to emphasize some of the top reasons why you should move your business online in the first place. What we typically see over the years is that it's not only about economic impact, it's also about improved reach and really doing doing business online and reaching your especially long tail customers, your C&D customers, which make up typically around 30 to 40% maybe, but are very important customers for the overall results. But maybe too expensive to directly service. This is an ideal platform for them. Also to offer your B2B customers a B2C-like experience. So they, like Mark mentioned, you have a lot of millennials nowadays working in the industry, and they are not really willing to work with amber screens, with black screens, and they want just a very compelling, nice system to work with. And this also secures the loyalty. Other reason being like increasing the self-service and really facilitating cross and upsell, finding information. And then the reason why this is also really important and valid is that our B2B commerce system is based on the communities platform, which really enables customers to find information, share IDs, and this is really powerful. Next to that is being agile to future change in circumstances. As we are now in a sort of soft second lockdown, you never know what's going to happen and nobody knows, so this is here to stay.
Yeah.
And last but not least, of course, lowering cost of sale, which I will deep dive into. And what does it mean? In order to find out, as I mentioned before, we Salesforce conducted a study, commissioned Forrester to do a study. And this was actually, I have to mention this, it was pre-COVID. What came out of it, it was already very interested and significant. So growth of revenue, lowering cost of sale, but also a faster ROI.
So I'd expect that, especially in these times, to be even more enhanced.
Yes, and even so, like Mark mentioned before, McKinsey commissioned another study, which I have one slide on as well. But if we look at the outcomes and the high-level outcomes from this study, as what we see is in three main areas. We see the growth in sales, so really increasing the share of wallet with your customer, increasing your market share typically, and also with customers or businesses who are already doing fine, but just want to secure that growth for the future. Next to that, reducing cost, typically reducing the calls you get inbound to your call center, freeing up some time, which I have a nice example for that later in my presentation, freeing up some time for your salespeople to start focusing on other bigger opportunities.
Yeah, you can only spend your time once.
Exactly. Yeah. And also in the other areas, a really simple way to scale up. As I mentioned before, we are based on a communities platform, which is especially with the Lightning version right nowadays, it's really easy to spin up a new website, maybe for a group of customers or for your geographical location, to start offering a part of your business over there with another catalog. And this is really easy to do and fast, and that's why it's so easy to scale up.
Yeah, I think the numbers that are shown here are pretty impressive already.
Yeah.
Especially around customer attrition. It's if you can keep customers on, that's always a better alternative than finding new ones. That's
exactly. It's very expensive to get a new customer on board, and to keep them on board is much easier than getting them on board in a new way. Yeah. So if we look in then to next slide, the evidence of growing this, growing your and enabling your customers to buy online, and this is the study you talked about for McKinsey was conducted up until last month, and here you see on the right hand side in the figure you see the growth from 34% to 66% of the importance customers are stressing to be digital enabled selling. So finding prices, finding products, finding product information. We have a lot of customers, especially in the chemical space. Mark knows as well that in the chemical industry, it's really important to have good information about the product you're buying, but also it needs to be shipped to another location. So this is really important to have this ready to go and start saving money on the impact it has on labor. So, and this is a slide I put in just to give you an example of what we see. What we see when we make a business case with our customers, and next to looking at the revenue and the potential savings, we also look at what if you do nothing, and this is actually a very modest example of doing nothing. And this is, I think the figures are very small, but you can see it here. We took into account two scenarios. One scenario of a growth, growth of 0.5% per year, and the other one is a decline of 0.5% per year. And you see at 100 million business turnover, it could easily grow to 18, almost 20% in total over 5 years. And this is again very modest.
These are shocking numbers.
It is, and this is just math, and not even take into account customers just leaving you and going for the competition. So this is really, really significant.
Yeah, but the do nothing scenario is an obvious one that I think we encounter everywhere, right?
Yes.
And Yeah, it's. I think it's good to make sure that that you explore the alternatives of not doing nothing, and I think the model that you showed could actually help there a lot.
Yeah, but just is this also about doing the things wrong, or just about when you keep in your business?
This is actually as is, and then losing some business to your competition, for instance, or your customers not ordering as frequently as they should have. And this is really on the cautious side. Typically, we see much greater numbers, as I will show you in the next slides, with actual customers, because I love to talk about actual customers.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yes. So here we see SolarWatt, for instance. SolarWatt is a company that produces and sells solar panels, as you can see. What they have seen when they implemented their B2B system is that they saw a tremendous uptake in orders online. And this was actually not stealing orders away from the traditional stand channel. It was really new customers ordering with them. So really finding new customers in their B2B channels and from the other sides of the industry. What they also saw, and this is the typicality we talked about with your value driver model, is also that we saw they were able to free up some time from their sales staff to not having to answer all of the obvious questions which their customers could find on the platform, but it freed up 30% of their time on average, which they were able to start focusing on bigger projects and finding bigger projects, going after marketing leads that they gathered from the market. So this is really significant impact that we see here. Yeah. We have some other ones as well. For instance, Foodstuffs, who saw a lot of new users on their platform when they implemented, and by doing so, they've increased their sales by 15%. This is a really nice example as well.
Like in this case, they really integrated it also with their sales, with their commerce, with their services, and actually making it a total experience. So breaking away the barriers between the silos and really provide a digital commerce platform, ordering platform up front, but also that sales experience, that analog channel.
Yeah, and thanks for that notification, because what we see is that customers typically, if they come on a website and they are interested and they do a request for quote, or they are downloading some information, this could be logged as a lead, and you can either ship this lead or direct this lead to your own sales staff, but also to your channel partners. So it's not to say that you have to get rid of all your channel partners, because that's not reality in here and now. But you can start logging how effective you are with your marketing spend, with your follow-ups, with the focus of your channel partners as well. And this really will help drive sales in the future as well.
Yeah, because that's an additional benefit. We didn't even talk about it. Really, the data it's producing. So the actually data that's producing, that you can capture, that you can use for market intelligence. And that's a bycoming effect, what also Mark mentioned. So we see if you focus on customers, then you bring also other things. I think what this really can bring is also the data collection that companies are really struggling and working for. This is your online shopping behavior on your website.
Yeah, so. I think you raise an interesting point there. We get a lot of questions at NextView, obviously, about companies wanting to become more data driven. This could be a very good first step as well, on top of everything else. So. That's a valid point. I believe you have one more case.
One more case. So Gap, I think everybody knows this, especially if you've been to the United States, because there's on every corner of the street there is a Gap store. Or used to be a Gap store, and the big clothing company, they already have B2C commerce in place, and they needed a B2B solution as well. And they actually started implementing this in the beginning of the COVID first lockdown, and they did so in 5 weeks for the MVP. By offering, for instance, face masks and some other products from their catalog as well, which is already a true example of how fast you can implement this. But the other one is how much they sold. They already sold about 10 million face masks already, and this is it's tremendous how quickly this goes. And
and this is even an older case from the beginning of COVID.
Yeah,
so I think 10 million is.
Yeah, no, it's already growing through the roof.
Exactly.
So this is a really nice example.
Yeah.
So if we sum this all up, I think we have shown quite significantly today that together with B2B commerce and of course a good strategy behind it, you can really lower your cost of sale and grow your sales and really empower your customers by offering a self-service platform to do business online 24/7 at their convenience, really drive efficiency, and not only by lowering your cost of sale, but all the other factors as well. And then really increase the speed to value. So really, typically we see an ROI between 2 and 3 years maximum. It could be quicker actually, and we'd love to do a calculation with.
Well, you've definitely hit home with the slides that you've shown. We are getting in a lot of questions. So the first one, individual pricing and offering for different customers is a relevant topic for us. How much flexibility can be expected from the Salesforce solution for this requirement?
A lot. We can offer specific prices and catalog per customer. So as soon as a customer logs on, he or she is immediately recognized and are offered their own pricing. This is really powerful, and this is really the power of the platform behind it. You can see the benefits, for instance, if you only offer a certain portion of your catalog being relevant to that customer. So you don't have to show them the whole catalog, which makes it nice to shop around and to find things easy. And on the other hand as well, you can have them shop around without pricing if they're another registered customer, and as soon as they clicked and filled their basket and they want to check out, then they have to log in and get their new pricing if they want so.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, we see there's a lot of different questions in that space. So indeed, right, as Martijn said, a lot of flexibility. We do see some customers that do want to put public pricing out there around certain products, because they know that there's markets out there on Amazon sometimes with their products or other routes to market. So they also want to make sure that they're being more visible in that space. Of course, when it comes to a particular kind of order that might go on, then there might be a request for quote, or they have to log in to see their specific price. So indeed, a lot of flexibility there. Some companies prefer that you need a registered logon and an account to see sort of pricing, and others are actually making some of the pricing more public and searchable.
Yeah, very good. Let's answer some more questions. What if we want to see a demo? Well, that's a good question. And as I said, look, contact us. We're showing the slide now with all the contact details. We'd love to do that. Like I said, for this particular webinar, because it's a topic that a lot of people are contemplating, we figured that it's more important to talk about value drivers, return on investment, rather than showing the actual product. I think the realization that it's more than just an electronic storefront is an important one. So hence we have stayed away from the demos for now. But obviously, if you'd like to see B2B commerce in real life, contact us. All the details are on screen right now. If you'd like to learn more about the 2-week quick start for B2B commerce from NextView, feel free to reach out to Sander van Loon. And I think this is actually a nice segue into wrapping up this session. Any final words from you?
Yeah, I would like to encourage everyone to read that Gartner paper. So it's really, I find it very helpful and very useful, actually summarizing what you see happening in that B2B market, actually from not only that value drivers, but where customers are struggling with, some nice numbers. So I really liked it. So it's available. So definitely.
Yeah. So if you go to the NextView website, you can just download it from there. Yeah. And so we're hosting papers from Gartner on a monthly basis, and they're also always in line with the topic that we use for our next webinar. So we use that research quite a bit. Mark, any final thoughts from you?
No, really. Thanks, guys, for the opportunity today. And sorry I had to do this virtually. Look forward to doing this in person, hopefully, again soon sometime. I just ask people, since we're talking about, online options, you can quickly look for online demos of Salesforce B2B Commerce to see a lot of different use cases and, what the different UI options are. As Martijn said, a lot of enhancements have been done to make it, really as flashy as you might expect for a B2C commerce site, but with all the, all the capabilities you might expect as well with B2B under the covers. So really look forward to any future conversations with anyone.
Cool. Thank you very much, and thanks for joining us. Martijn, any last thoughts from you?
Well, as you mentioned, demo we left out because of time. What we typically do is do the intake session. Sander and I could do that together, and then listen what the business case is or the situation at the customer, and then making it personal with a personalized demo, which is easy for us to set up within even a half an hour. Then really driving it home. If we do the first demo, then it's your look and feel with your products and your business case, and that's how easy we can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it would be good to have a demo because we're still getting in some questions. So I'll ask one more. That can real-time information like stock or delivery time be shown when coming from other systems like ERP?
Yes. Typically, I come from the B2C space as well. I have now in the B2B space. Commerce is always an integration party, so to say. So you always have to do integrations. And yes, our platform is totally ready for that. We're API-based, we're SaaS-based, and we do so for a whole lot of companies worldwide.
Yeah, and so if you'd like to learn more about that, please reach out so we can be more specific. Would love to do that. For now, I'd like to wrap up this session. Thank you very much for watching us. Hope to see you again next month. We're on November 11. We have our next webinar on the future of service, which is promising to be very interesting as well. But so far, thank you very much. Stay safe, stay healthy. See you next time.